Well, off-season coverage continues. Now teams are signing players, and I'm so excited to be talking to two of those players and one of those teams today. As we're continuing this, of course, the coverage brought to you by Alienware. So today I'm joined by Jordan Sherman, who's the head of Immortals, as well as two familiar faces from the LCS competitive side, normally on the stage, Wild Turtle and Revenge. So great to talk to all of you guys today. Maybe Jordan, you can kind of kick us off by letting us know. I know you guys have announced the roster, but for those that might have missed it amid all the commotion, what does 2022 look like for Immortals?
Yeah, we're really excited. I came on the show in September and kind of talked about the vision for the company, and a lot has been updated and changed since then in a really positive way. The first main thing that we announced was that our company is relocating to the Great Lakes, which means we're going to be running our business operations and our team representing the region and actually moving to the region. Now, for LCS specifically, it's going to retain in LA for now because we're going to have to play out of LCS Studio. But the team's going to be asked to really kind of take on this task of representing a region that we view as to be an underserved in gaming because there's a tremendous amount of demand there, but not that much of supply. There's no pro teams really representing the region. And what's cool is that we have a tremendous amount of players that are actually from the Great Lakes region. Revenge is from Illinois, Turtle's from Toronto. And it's cool for them to kind of pick up the opportunity to reflect and kind of think about, wow, what does this mean not only to be on Immortals, but to be playing for something even bigger than before. And as we put together the roster, it really started with Mo, who's been someone that we've worked really closely together, who actually had his hand in helping us pick the right players and who we wanted to bring on. He was really involved in the recruiting and in the interview process. And one by one, I think we started to bring in players that are high quality, really mature, veteran guys that wanted to mesh well and build the culture that we're looking to kind of sustain here at Immortals, which is one of like positivity, mature, hardworking professionals that are in it for each other. So we brought on, we retained Revenge, Xerxes, and Destiny, and then we brought on Wild Turtle and PoE. So what I think we did was we up-leveled our business, we up-leveled our players, we put everybody together in a new direction that was really built from the players, and the result of what I think a kind of a really cool dynamic of players and executives working together to build towards this new direction.
I'm excited to see what you guys are able to do, and it's cool to hear that you guys are kind of claiming this underserved area of the U.S. and North America for the LCS team. But I'd also like to kind of shift it over to the players here. Revenge, what was the off season like for you? Because obviously there's always a lot of uncertainty. You don't know what team. In some cases, players don't know what team they're going to be on. In some others, it's like I don't know who my teammates are going to be. So maybe you can take me through the off season from your perspective.
Yeah, so it was definitely a crazy off season because, like Jordan said, he and or I was very involved with him in helping recruit and select some of the people, some of the teammates that we have now, like this year. So for me, it was, I became very involved, and that also entails, understanding what's going on with other teams. And man, off season really was a mess this year somewhat, but I think we kind of came out on the much better end of things. So it was really cool this time around to feel like I had that say and that involvement because, like in my previous experiences, it was always that kind of uncertainty, that kind of like, man, where am I going to land? Like last year, I was not even like expecting the IMT opportunity to come to me. It was a kind of a spontaneous thing that arose. So I think that this year was a much more knowledgeable, I guess, or like insightful experience into how off seasons work. And like I said, I think we got off on the better end of things, and I'm happy with every single one of my teammates. And like Jordan said, I think the culture that we created is going to be, or like it is extremely underrated because I think that like it's insane what we're bringing as a team culture, and I think that it's going to let us win a lot.
That's awesome to hear. I think it's really cool to see and to hear that you were so involved in building the roster in the off season. I'm curious, Revenge. Do you Do you kind of ascribe to the way that a lot of people have positioned the league right now, where there's like top 5, bottom 5, and you're kind of seeing the split? Because I think previously last year, a lot of people felt that way. In some ways, it feels like from a spending profile and from some of the players that ended up on certain teams, people would continue to think that. Maybe say, for instance, that Immortals is top of the bottom 5 rather than like bottom of the top 5. I don't know. So I'm kind of curious if you look at it in that same way.
Well, I think like if we look at every single year, that I guess notion always gets disproven somehow. Like even in 2019 and 2020, 2021, like there was that one spring split where TL got like 9th or 10th in 2019. And then it was like FlyQuest coming out of nowhere, making back-to-back finals that year. And then there was like last year where, I mean, you know, like everyone would have banked on TSM making Worlds or something with that roster, right? And they didn't. So it's like, there's so much unpredictable things that happen during a year that it's kind of funny now with the experience I have to look at, you know, the community reaction to things and like community perception of things, even like analysts and stuff. It's like rankings and all that, because it really is all just random and like usually proven wrong, right? So I'm a huge optimist in our team, and I know that we have set goals to make it really far and to hopefully make Worlds. I think that should be every team's goal, really. So I think that this year it's a lot more attainable with the roster that we put together, and that's all I care about and I really look at. I don't let all the other factors really, you know, like what people say about us really does not affect me at all, because I really understand how unpredictable things are.
Yeah. Turtle.
I think to add on
go
to
ahead.
that
Yeah,
point,
go
it's
for
like,
it.
I think this year in specific, just because I think the last time we had Worlds in North America was like 5 years ago. So I think even this year, yeah, 2016. So I think even this year is like even bigger motivation for, I think, most of any players. Like for me specifically as a domestic North American player, I really want to do well this year just because it's in our home country and we have more to prove than ever.
Toronto.
And yeah,
Toronto.
I was going to ask about that. Yes,
yeah,
like it's in your backyard.
We're just trying to put North America on the map, and you know, if we fail, you know, how many years in a row? 10 years in a row of not performing at Worlds, I'm gonna be, maybe this time will be the extra disappointing year.
Yeah. Well, I remember when you interviewed me, I think in Korea, Turtle, talking about North America's performance at Worlds. But I mean, I was going to get to this later in the interview, but because you brought it up, you know, you just mentioned the Great Lakes region, you being from Toronto, obviously one of the stops there. What did you think of when you heard about that earlier this week?
It was a stuck. I think a lot of my friends back in Toronto were telling me about it. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna definitely."
Oh, did we lose audio? I think you cut out there for a second, Turtle. Can you take that again? Just from where I was asking you, what did you think when you saw this earlier this week?
It was a huge announcement. I think all my friends were telling me about it, and then they were saying we're gonna be really disappointed if we don't see you there. And I was just like, oh no, I'm trying to get to the semifinals, guys. Never before made in North American history, but we'll do it.
Very good. Well, I'm glad to hear. I wanted to also ask you, Turtle, about what the as you know, kind of doing the rounds here. What was the offseason like for you? Because you're one of the few players left in the league that has been around since like the very beginning. And so I gotta imagine it was interesting for you. You know, when did you know you were probably going to be looking for another team, and what was the path that you took to end up on Immortals?
I think I kind of knew immediately that I would be looking at another team because our CLG was just doing a whole revamp. They were just changing the whole system. I knew I didn't want to be a part of that, so I was reaching out to other teams, talking to a lot of people, talking to Revenge a lot, and he was telling me what was going on with other teams. I was also figuring and then Immortals just happened to be the best choice for me because I really liked the way Xerxes played last split. I spent some time with Power of Evil and Revenge on FlyQuest, and then I got to know Destiny at dinner. Surprisingly, he's a memer, so I think we're all good here.
Good, glad to hear it. Well, quick follow up there. I know there's the infamous tweet that Angela made of all of you not smiling on CLG compared to the past. Are we going to see a big smile from you now that you're back here in Immortals?
Sure that our camera guy's like, oh, we're not going to do you dirty. Can you smile for me?
Yeah, gotta make sure it's there. Jordan, you know, one of the very notable departures from IMT this year and recently announced is Andre joining Team Liquid. obviously he was a big part of Immortals previously, and I know helped set the culture there. So, what did that mean for Immortals in the offseason? He ended up switching teams.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy for Andre. He got an opportunity to lead an incredible roster, and we wish him the best. I definitely have Team Liquid circled on my calendar this year. I think we all do, and we want to take them down and kind of prove our point a little bit. But we wish him the best, and we're kind of moving forward in the direction that we're moving. And I think as you look at our players, and even just kind of looking at this interview, I mean, I wish we could have the whole team together to showcase it. But like, I think from my perspective, in addition to talent and hard work, I think culture and getting along with the people you play with and positive vibes and trust and like long-term connection, I think that stuff really matters. And I know that the game has like its X's and O's, and there's different features to the meta every single matchup that you have. But I really think when you're in, and the players can tell you, well, when you're on stage and you're playing, there's so much that can happen. And if you don't have that culture around you of trust and history and knowing where your teammates are going to be, it can all fall apart no matter how good you are, no matter what's happening with all these different all-star teams. And to me, I don't care what this analyst says or what that analyst says. What I care about is like what Revenge and Turtle say, and like the insight they're giving me about how hard people are working and what it means to them to play together as a team. Those are the people that we go to for our feedback and our advice, because they know best. And I'm really excited by all this because I'm excited by who we have, and the people that we have now are like committed to making this the best possible scene and culture for Immortals going forward. And we want people who want to be here and want people who want to build that culture with us. And I think it's gonna be pretty evident, like based on, you want to show up to work with people that you care about and that you can trust. They're going to do the right thing. So I'm really excited for who we have.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's cool to see what you guys are continuing to build. Revenge, I know, especially from the infamous Hotline League episode, you had a pretty good relationship with Andre and an interesting one. So I guess, yeah, one, for you personally, what happened, or what was it like when you heard that he was going to be on the team? And two, how do you plan on sort of facing off against him or dealing with him now on a rival team for next year?
Yeah, no, it's really, really exciting for me. I mean, Andre was someone who, like he was the main reason I joined Immortals. He was one of my the main people who scouted me and, trained me to become the player that I am today. So in that regard, I'm I feel like I'm now versing like my,
mentor,
like my mentor of sorts. And to me, that's like huge fuel to do really well. I think that I've gotten, like, this year of coaching for me was really, really important. And I think that, like, I can now use the lessons that Andre has taught me to, destroy him. And that's very fun. That's very fun to me. That's going to be, I hope it's a rivalry that, like, will become, like, the highlight of, it's going to be the highlight of my season. I hope that other people can get invested in it too, because I think it's going to be really, really fun. And I think that, he has a great roster, but I genuinely believe that ours is going to compete with theirs. And, when it does, this is going to be really, really sweet and just going to feel that much better that, I worked with him before.
Yeah.
The student has become the teacher.
You're gonna be teaching him some lessons. Turtle, given that you've been around for so long and how crazy this offseason was, there's, I guess nothing is completely figured out yet, but there's rumors that we're going to see Jensen go teamless, a lot of veterans that have been around for a long time, not in the league, and then also just a lot of fresh faces, both in terms of like veterans that are coming over from other regions, like Hansama, who you'll be facing off against, but also other rookies that are coming up. So I don't know how much you've been tracking, like who is on what team and all that stuff, but what do you think of the players that you're going to be facing off against next year? Are there any that in particular you're looking forward to face, and how IMT will be able to face off against all these other rosters?
I was pretty excited to hear that Hansama will be coming to NA. Actually, in 2020 Worlds, we scrimmed against Rogue a lot, and I thought he was like a pretty good player. So I think him coming to NA is I think he will make the 80 carries in North America a lot better, I hope. And I think there's a ton of fresh faces too, and I think I still hold an advantage a little bit over there because I have a little bit more experience. So we'll see how well the rookies get developed during with time, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know, Revenge or Turtle. I mean, especially Revenge guy. I know because you were tracking all the teams along with Jordan and the stuff in the offseason. Are there any rosters in particular that you are really excited to face or that you think are really compelling? Obviously, a lot of people are going to say TL, but I don't know, any others that you're like, oh, they could surprise?
I think the Cloud9 roster will be interesting. I'm really interested to see how Fudge is going to do in mid lane, and even Summit, because yeah, Summit did well in Korea, but there's always like a huge like change when an import comes to NA, so that's going to be interesting. I'm also interested to see CLG because of their roster. It's very, very fresh. I'm really curious if they'll be like those players are going to, actually develop or just not develop at all. I think it will be a very telling year for CLG, not only like as an org, but like for all their players too, because a lot of those players have been like in the academy system / LCS system for quite a while, like Jenkins, Contracts, and even Palafox. So like if those players can't really perform this year, then I think it's like a really, it's a telling sign for their careers. So that keeps me interested and invested in some sense to look at them.
I'm also curious, like who was the last Korean import in North America? Was it like 3 years ago, I think?
No, more.
Oh, it was Ignar, right?
Yeah. Ignar might have been the most recent. I feel like there was another random one, but maybe it is Ignar. Yeah,
I think it was Ignar.
And then I'm actually really excited to see how C9 will perform. They have like 2 Korean imports now, and I'm stoked to see how they'll do. I think we haven't had an AD carry import in a pretty long time. I think. Nothing, other than like Bang maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I think Bang was more recent than Ignar. I can't remember, but yeah, I think Bang was.
No, I mean as in the AD carry role. So.
Yes. Yeah. But no, it's very true. I think it'll be fascinating. Revenge mentioned CLG. I have to ask, Turtle, will you feel a rivalry with CLG, or is it like not so much because it's a completely brand new roster, right?
I feel a rivalry with CLG. Good question. I think there could be one depending on how they start performing.
Yeah,
I could develop some hate.
Well, Jordan, kind of going back to you and more on the business side, what have you thought of the way things have shifted over the course of the off season? Because it feels like this was the biggest shakeup to like the economy. We saw a lot of buyouts fall over the course of this. Presumably, I guess it's not. Nothing is ever official, right? But it seems like a lot of buyouts fell. We had a lot of players who just decided that they didn't want to play on certain teams and are potentially heading to either take a split off or retire because of that. And like, seems like certain teams that have previously spent a lot maybe are opting out of that this time. So what do you think of the LCS as you've seen so many changes in the off-season economy, I guess, as it were?
So I'd say even beyond just the economy itself, I think what I've learned the most is the connection between players and executives, and really having to strengthen those bonds in order to get the right teams together. And that's what I think these guys have been so awesome. And what's been really great for me to kind of go through the process is seeing it from their side, and then being able to see it a little bit more from our side. And I think it's made us a lot stronger together. And if this works, I think what you're going to find is like it's actually going to reset itself in a way where it's not just going to be just like you pick the players, you put the roster of all-stars together, and you go. I think what we're trying to do is actually change the dynamic a little bit. So it's about like people coming together, whether they're player or executive, seeing it from one another's perspective, and then building the culture around that. And that's something that Mo and I really work closely on.
Gotcha. Cool. I mean, you said kind of bringing them behind the scenes. Did that also include helping? Because I think you said you kind of had to like help get them invested in this stuff. Was that like, hey, Mo, sorry, I can't pay you $10 million because here's like the context on how this business works? Like, how much of it is also just in helping kind of bring these guys in on how the business is run?
A lot of it. I think that's kind of what we're finding out is that what's the point of leaving these guys in the dark? Like, we should be letting them know at all times the direction they're going and the reasons why we're doing what we're doing, and then also soliciting feedback for them in terms of which direction we should go. And that way, I think it's really helpful because we can make the best decision. There's some things that I am privy to that they're not, and there's things that they're privy to which I'm not. So if we don't have that trust and that connection, how are we supposed to do this at all?
Yeah.
And Mo, feel free to jump in on kind of some of the things that we talked about or the process in which we did it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty unique experience for me because like I said, in a lot of my off seasons, I was used to just being left out in the dark, really unsure what's going on. But this off season, I really got more insight into like this rebuild of structure at Immortals, and I personally don't use an agent. I'm my own agent and represent myself. So it was really valuable and important for me to kind of have these like discussions one on one with Jordan about how we can both help each other and how, I want the best contract for myself, but I don't, with the best intentions as well for the org and, with what directions we're both heading in, right? Like, I think that led to like really healthy negotiations and discussions, and it left me feeling happy entering the year without any regrets about any contract decisions or not feeling like, there's any clauses in my contract I'm not happy with and all of that. And I think that it was really, really cool for me to just feel like the org wanted me to be involved with that and understand what the org is doing, because a lot of players won't say this on other teams and other organizations, and it's a really, really controversial thing to talk about, but a lot of organizations in the offseason do a lot of players dirty in that regard and just treat their players like business commodities and that's it, with no soul, And I really felt like Immortals, to me, is an org that like gained a soul this offseason of like caring for players and like, actually wanting to be an org that is good, And that was, I won't lie, it's surprising to me, given all the stories I've heard from other players, all the experiences I'm even seeing this offseason from other organizations, And it's our lives, It's like a whole year of our lives dedicating to this, and it's really important that we're happy doing it. So I hope that in the future, when this works out, and I'm very confident it will with what we did at Immortals, other organizations can follow or like see what we did this year and like try to emulate it the best they can.
Yeah. Well, I know we're getting very close to Thanksgiving here, and Turtle, probably not something you're celebrating because I think yours was a little while ago. But I do want to just kind of, before we wrap up, hear from Revenge. I interviewed Bjergsen last week. He told me that you guys are going to Korea together. I think he's over there right now, maybe waiting for you already. So what's the story behind your off-season boot camp and what you're looking to accomplish?
Yeah, so I've never boot camped before in my life. I've only played any solo queue, so a lot of people are surprised by that, but I feel like I've accomplished all of my goals I've ever wanted to in any solo queue, and I've heard just hundreds at this point of insanely good things about Korean solo queue and just Korean gaming culture in general. So I'm really excited to experience that. And yeah, Bjergsen, he reached out to me a few weeks ago about going to Korea. I was like, wow, this is an insane opportunity. Of course, I'd like to come with you. And he's been there, like you said, for a few days now. And I'm, coming a bit late, but I'm excited to like start that journey and like, also just really hone in all my skills for the season because, like I said, it's a kind of an untapped territory for me. So I don't really know what will happen, but yeah, it's super cool that I think it's super cool that Immortals is also helping me with this opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we don't have to go completely around the horn here on this, but if any of you want to say anything to any of the fans for next year about what the roster, what your hopes are, or anything you want to say to the fans, I will open the floor to any of you.
Just happy to be back in the LCS with Immortals, so let's see how it goes.
I'll make sure he smiles.
Very good. Thank you. Glad to hear it.
I would say, first of all, we're going to be representing the Great Lakes region. So if you're from the Great Lakes, you've never had a team before, give Immortals a shot. We're going to be showing up and actually being about the change. So you're going to see us actually in the region in 2022 with our players and our teams and our influencers. In early January, you're going to see new branding that's going to reflect the Great Lakes, which I think is going to be really good. It's going to look awesome and kind of set the tone for this next direction. And overall, we want to be accessible. We want to be accessible to our fans. We want to be accessible to our partners. You're going to see a bunch of new partnerships coming up in LCS. And we want to work really closely with our players and kind of set this foundation for what the company is going to be. So if you've never been a fan before or you're looking for a new team, I think this is a great time to jump on board with Immortals because to most point, it's kind of like I think we're not only finding our soul, but I think we're finding our direction, and we're going to move towards that really quickly.
Yeah, awesome to hear it. Well, hey, thank you all for sitting down with me to talk about this stuff and learn a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. And like, I don't normally talk about this stuff, but I was reached out to by you all. I didn't have to go chase you down, and it's very rare that a team has that level of interest and just getting the conversation out to the community about what they're doing. So I really do appreciate it. And for everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things off-season leading into 2022 right here on my YouTube channel. Holiday season is almost here, which means that there's great shopping opportunities over at Alienware. That's right. They've got their new R13 and R14s that are out. And guess what? I just want to ask you that whenever Black Friday comes up or Cyber Monday or Deals Tuesday or awesome Wednesday, whatever, I don't know, that you check out alienware.com/Travis and then click over on the banner up at the top to head to their Black Friday deal, their holiday deals, because like maybe you're going to purchase something and this would be a great way for you to support the channel is you purchase something and then you like tweet at them and let them know you did it because of me, and then I feel good about myself and I can finally tell my family that they can be proud.